Hey everybody, my name is Robert Williams. I'm an architect here at CA, and I'm going to be talking about getting test environments when you need them with a product called Service Virtualization. So one of the big problems with testing is getting the environment set up that you need to be able to run your service. And the problem is not so much running your actual service, the code that you wrote. The problem is all the dependencies, because your application's behavior is dependent on the availability and the behavior of all of its dependencies. And guess what? Their behavior is dependent on their dependencies' behavior, and so on. This was bad even before microservices, but microservices have made it much, much worse, especially if you've got one of those systems that's architected so service A calls service B, calls C, calls D. Anything that goes wrong along the lines can completely screw up your test. You can get false positives, you can get false negatives, and you just really don't know. You may not have the dependencies you need. You may have them and you want to do things to them that you can't really do. You also have a problem of setting up your negative test cases. In Java 9, there are 126 JDBC error codes. How are you going to make MySQL do that? How are you going to actually verify that your code is resilient in the face of a database problem? What about that microservice that you control, that you depend on? How are you going to make that send back a 503? What are you going to do there? How are you going to make sure that your system actually functions the way that you intended it? So this is where Service Virtualization comes in. So Service Virtualization is both the name of my product. It's also a category of products. There are a lot of different vendors that have Service Virtualization offerings. What you can do is you can model your dependencies. So if you've got, if your dependencies are just web services, you can pull in a Swagger file or a WSDL. It's not limited to just web services, but those are an easy case to talk about. You can pull in request response pairs. You can record your interaction. That's probably the easiest way. Or you can just manually specify what you want. When you've got your dependency characterized, when you've got it modeled, you can choose which of those interactions you want, bundle those up into what's called a virtual service or a virtual instance of that dependency. And then you can modify that any way that you want. Then you deploy those, the right set of those. You run your system under test against that to test the characteristics that you're looking for. So you have one set that's for happy paths. You have one set that's for negative testing. You have another set for performance testing, etc. If you only have web service dependencies, then we have a tool for free called SV Community Edition. It's available right now at trials.ca.com. You can scroll down a couple of, it's about halfway down the screen. It's called a trial. It's actually just a free product. That's just the URL that they gave us to hang it off of. You can get started with that right now. The enterprise edition of our product has a lot more protocols that it supports: SAP, databases, messaging, you name it. But the free version, we stripped it down. We reduced the footprint. We simplified the GUI, and so we had to focus just on one thing. We went with web services. So I'm going to go ahead and do a demo of that real quick. This is what SV Community Edition looks like. I said there's a lot of ways that you could model your dependency. So you can see that here. We've got a bundle explorer or a bundle editor, which is a Postman-like interface that you can use to exercise a web service. You can pull in your Swagger from a URL or your WSDL. You can pull in files. If you've got text files that describe the interaction, you can pull that in. The version I'm going to show you is the recorder. This is, I think it's the easiest way to get going. So I start up my recorder. The way we work is we intercept the traffic between the system under test, which is on the left, and the dependency that you have that's on the right. So I'm going to go ahead and make a couple changes to this. Make sure all my stuff is up and running. This is all good. And go ahead and start the recorder. So I put together a little sample application just to check your credit score. It's just a simple application that's calling a microservice. In reality, this microservice would come from one of the credit reporting agencies. I've just got something run on my box. So we're going to go ahead and put in a social security number here. Use 000. He's got a really bad credit score, 342. Terrible score. All right, let's see if we can find somebody with a better score. 692, that's fair. We go back over here and you see the transactions that we actually captured here. You can see the request, you can see the response that we sent. So I've got 2, that's good enough. I'm going to go ahead and stop that recording. And I'm going to add both of these to a virtual service. Create a virtual service. Now, you know that first guy, he had a really bad credit score. I kind of feel sorry for him. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to change that. Instead of a 342, we're going to give him, you know what, I want to see what our system does if you give it a completely invalid credit score. I'm going to give him a 1500. I'm confusing this with SAT scores. But we're just going to make that a 1500. Just see what happens. I've got the virtual service running now, and I'm going to kill my web service here. So this would represent that third-party dependency is dead. It's gone. You can't get to it. We're just depending on the virtual service now. And go back. Let's look up this first guy again. And there you go, 1500. So what did I just learn? That my service, my web app does not properly fail if I get invalid responses back. Now, if I was depending on the real system, if I had a real service that I was depending on, I never could have tested this scenario. And then I'll show you the other one. This is 001. 692 comes back with the same one. So I can take this virtual service. I'm completely isolated from my dependencies, and I have absolute flexibility to create as many different kinds of services I want to test all of my different characteristics. So again, you can get this for free. You can get started right now. Just go to trials.ca.com. You just hit that middle link there. You got to register. You get a link to download it, and you're good to go.